grab your popcorn, grab your decapitated head, get your butter, get your bag of blood. This is the 2022 edition of the 31 Days of Dread, where Peter A. DeLuca, aka Pad, your boy here, the film buff, does one horror movie a day, and that's me talking. I'm your host. I'm not a vampire. I'm almost a zombie because I've just been doing nothing but watching these movies so I can discuss them all with you. But here it is, the 31 Days of Dread. Everyone, I am so excited to bring you these movies. We're doing modern day horror for the first time ever. We're barely even going to hit 2021. We're going to focus on 2022. So roll over in that coffin and let's go. AKA Padders, welcome to another hashtag lit installment of AKA Pads, the Film Buff Podcast. I'm your host, and take my hand as we walk through my film journey. Tonight, well, whenever you're listening to this, we're discussing PIGGY, or in its native tongue, Cordita, or Cordita. Look, people, we all know I have a speech impediment. We all know I have trouble pronouncing words. We even have trouble remembering the phonication of words, but I don't care. I'm still doing my podcast. I hope that doesn't bother any of you. But we're talking amazing movies here. We're talking horror. We're still on the 31 Days of Dread that began way back in October. And why are we just stuck on horror? We got the Academy Awards coming up this weekend. We got movies like The Fableman and Everything Is Always, or Always Is Everything, or Everything Is Everything as our two front runners. But we're talking PIGGY. PIGGY should be there. This film, as Pearl, as we spoke about earlier, should also be nominated. This film shouldn't even be nominated for foreign movie. This movie should be nominated for Best Picture. And I'm going to tell you why. Because we're dealing with a subject matter that usually, historically, doesn't land very well on film. We do have bullying in film. And that's what this film is. This film is an overweight, I don't want to say poor, but lower middle class girl. Her and her family, they work. They work. She gets bullied, and her life, her torture, we feel it through the film. We feel it through the performance of Laura Galán. We feel it so much so, the horror aspect of this movie works perfectly. When she, at the end of this movie, and I'm sorry, we do spoilers here, but at the end of this movie, when her when her torturers are in fact are also tortured, but in front of her, this girl has a choice. She has a decision. Does she kill them? Does she torture them? Does she turn everything that she knows to be true, like, upside down? Does she murder the people that bullied her, or does she let them go? And I'm not going to tell you how this movie wraps up, but we have such an interesting cut, such an interesting jump cut that reveals the fate of everything. And it sticks with you. It lands. But the real star of this movie, it's not the concept. It's not. I mean, it's beautifully shot in the daytime, and I'm sometimes very critical. See, I'm like critical in extreme night and extreme daytime, but this movie feels like the environment. Feels like it's dirt roads and wooded areas, and the sun is just always there. There's a public pool scene, and you can almost just smell it. It's shot so well. And that public pool scene also has one of the most tragic and horrific bullying scenes you can imagine. But PIGGY is the centerpiece of Laura Galán. This is our star. And this girl so convinces us that she is a day away from suicide, is a day away from ending her life, that she can never be happy, that she can never come back from this. And along the way, she goes through this horrific experience because, again, a little bit like our previous movie, this is two movies in one. We have a bullying movie. We have a movie that we just feel sorry for our protagonist. But then the movie shifts into, and I'm not exaggerating, I'm not joking here, but the movie shifts into a serial killer falling in love with Piggy, hoping to turn her into his ways by showing her the darkness. This is Emperor Luke Skywalker stuff here. And then she needs to make moral and ethical decisions along the way, emotional decisions for that matter. Can she be the bigger person when she's introduced to a world of horror? Now, I thought this movie was going to be her completely letting loose on these girls that target her, but it's not. This is a movie, it still has some of the aspects that you were expecting. This has aspects of digging down and fighting through the mud, doing what's right, seeing what's inside of you, and not letting others dictate who you are. And in a way, the serial killer, this Victor Crow type guy, he falls in love with her, and he's in love with her, but she doesn't let that affect her. And I really think that's the point of this movie. No matter what happens, her family life, having no friends, having serial killer fall in love with her, she doesn't change who she is. She knows who she is at her core. And I do believe that's a powerful idea that this movie hits home perfectly. And along the way, we get, what's her name? Carlota Perdilla. I'm sorry, I butcher some of these names. We already spoke about the speech impediment. But Carlota, we'll call her, or just our director. But our director does the work. And when the director does the work, and I don't know who they are, I gotta trust the internet. She's not deep. She's not. This really seems to be like a first film, a first full effort, which again is amazing. And it just does fall in line with what we've been saying about horror, which is why we're sticking with horror for so long, despite the Academy Awards coming up, despite Wakanda Forever, despite Creed 3, despite all these other films, because even our best dramatic movies have been coming in through horror, and Piggy is a dramatic movie. It would be maybe more drama than horror. But we are sold on imagery. We're sold on acting. We're sold through subtitles, which is, going a little bit to Parasite. It can happen when it's there. It's perfect and it hits home, and it's just it pulls you into the movie a little bit. I think subtitles have a cognizant effect on the audience. You kind of are drawn a little bit deeper into the movie, and there's a little bit more anticipation of what happens scene per scene. And I do think you follow subtitled movies a little bit clearer than not, because it's hard to drift. It's very hard for your mind to drift. But this movie hits it. It hits it on all rounds. This movie doesn't fail. This movie also deserves more attention than even what I'm able to do. Sure, we got some social media traction, but this movie should be in the ranks of the Academy Awards. This movie should be there. Our girl, Laura Galán, should be there as Best Actress, but she's not. And it's a tragedy. But people, go watch this movie, check it out. You will not be disappointed. Piggy, aka Pad the Film Buff, signing out. Until next time. Rock and roll. We will be discussing Men, MEN, by the way. Men is coming, not favorably. I'll explain it. Rock and roll. The future of film is horror, and thanks for all of that, everyone. Thanks for hanging out with me. Getting back to my point there. The future is horror. The future of cinema is horror. So everyone here, and I've never, ever, in all these years, I've never made this request. But everyone that we highlight, every single filmmaker, male, female, ghoul, goblin, you know the drill. But check them out. Find them on a streaming platform. I usually highlight how I watch these movies
on which platform, even if I rented it or bought it, so you guys know a little bit of the price range. It's important that we support all of these movies and all of these filmmakers because they are the future. The future is horror. Thanks for hanging out.